Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. This has been called a miracle because Beethoven was deaf. Yet he composed what's been termed the greatest of all symphonies, a symphony that changed the history of music forever. It's been used by NASA scientists and was performed to commemorate the fall of the Berlin Wall. Today, Mauro Ledesma will play the most famous parts as well as Beethoven's Sonata Pathétique, explaining Beethoven's expressive melodies. Mauro began his studies at Bellas Artes here and later graduated at the University of Colima with a Bachelor of Arts degree in piano, receiving various academic excellence recognitions along the way. Several of his concerts have been broadcast live for radio and television, and he has toured the United States, performing as a soloist in several concert halls and participating in various musical festivals. In 2013, he was appointed director of the San Miguel de Allende Opera Choir, garnering very favorable comments from national critics. In 2015, the University Institute of Fine Arts of the University of Colima invited him as a speaker at the first alumni meeting to share his experience with the students of the music faculty. In 2017, he received an invitation through the Mexican Embassy in Canada to appear in that country to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the founding of Canada. Since 2019, he's been the co-director of the Choral San Miguel, through which he directs and produces concerts with the most important orchestras in Mexico and with international soloists. In addition to working as a piano and music theory teacher, he collaborates as a pianist and with various institutions such as Opera San Miguel, Pro Musica, and the International Chamber Music Festival. Please help me welcome Mauro to Rotary.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. I am very happy to be here. And before explaining the musical stuff, I would like to mention a couple things that we are doing as an association. Um, I would like to remember a moment like 10 years ago when I decided to do the Mozart Requiem at the parroquia. Everybody was like, who is going to be interested about listening a Mozart Requiem in the parroquia? It was, an experiment, and I decided with my team that they are very supportive that we were going to do it. And to be honest, and it's going to sound arrogant. I had never seen those many people. We couldn't even walk. We had people sitting in the floor. After that, we are not allowed to do any more concerts at the parroquia because we had at least 1,000 people pushing from the outside, trying to get in. So, and after that, we decided to do this a tradition and to do concerts with orchestra and these masterworks that is difficult to hear. So we are bringing all those musicians, orchestra, and solists to San Miguel de Allende. And for this specific concert, in addition to Beethoven, we are going to do the premiere of a local, I say local composer because he makes his living here in San Miguel, that actually he has been here, Michael Hoppy. You know him. We're going to do the premiere of one of his choral works, and it's for choir and orchestra. I would like to mention about Michael Hoppy, very specific thing he has as a composer. As a composer, if you go to school, you learn to do how to do difficult chords, harmony, counterpoint, how to treat the orchestra. But something that you cannot learn in a university is how to create a melody that everybody remembers and that everybody wants to sing. And that's what Michael Hoppy has. You hear a melody of him and you go to bed and you are still singing the melody. So that's very, very difficult to connect in that way with the audience. And for me, that's one of the most important gifts that a musician can have. And in this occasion, I remember talking to Michael Hoppy at his house because we did the premiere of his Requiem around 5 years ago. So I was talking to him at his place, like, when was going to be the next premiere? And he had no idea. He was like, I don't have a new piece, but maybe this year, maybe next year. We were not sure. We have a very nice conversation about music and about musicians. And after that, I went back home. And that night, I got an email and he said, I got it. I got the poem. After you left, someone emailed him that poem that he decided this was the message of the universe. And he wrote the melody for the choir, for the orchestra, for this specific poem. That's the poem. You don't need to read the whole thing. But now I am going to play, not this, because this is going to be the premiere, and I don't want to spoil it. But I'm going to play a piano piece by Michael Hoppy, who actually describes very well the feeling I was telling you of a melody that you want to sing. And also, this specific piece is very organic. Even if it is the first time you hear the piece, you can follow the melody. So, the name of this piece is An Unforgetting Heart. Thank you very much. For me, one of the most important things to make this concert special is that not many times as a musician you have the opportunity to work directly with the composer. I would have loved to ask Mozart or Beethoven or Chopin about the phrasing, to say, what I am doing, you like it? Is that correct? But unfortunately, we have to trust about the style, but we are not sure if actually is what they wanted. But with Michael Hoppy is different, not only because he's there in the rehearsal, but also because he's always very open about the music. So when we were doing the premiere about his Requiem, sometimes I was asking him, I feel like this phrase should be a little bit faster in this way. What do you think? Sometimes he was like, no, but sometimes he was like, oh, yes, play it in that way. I prefer that. Do it. So it's a real privilege to work with the composer because there are many things you can add to the music and you have the permit of the composer. So he's not going to be upset. And also, in this concert, in this specific concert, we are going to do, as you know, Beethoven Ninth Symphony, which is one of the masterworks, uh, maybe the most famous classical work, Beethoven Ninth Symphony. And I have, I have been asked by many Mexican people if that is that famous, so people say. Nobody knows that the melody that we sing in kindergarten, ti-ta, 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 ti, is the climax of that symphony. Before um, talking about this specific symphony, I would like to talk about how Beethoven broke all the rules. Before Beethoven, composers were not allowed to compose what they wanted. They only have two ways to make money, in the court or in the church. Bach wrote amazing music, but because he was asked to write that music. And the same happened with Mozart and Haydn. Most of the time they were asked in the court what they had to write, or a symphony or a string quartet. But Beethoven, he was the first musician in history to be like self-employed. He didn't want to have a boss to tell him what to write, what to compose. He wanted to have the freedom. And he opened the doors for the next generation, like Chopin, Liszt, Brahms, this romantic period. But for me, the first romantic work ever is Beethoven 9. And in that time, people were thinking that he was driving crazy because it has so many dissonances that now, 200 years, we don't hear those dissonances like dissonances because we are very familiar with different chords. But at that time of history, people were like, what's that chord? And the most important, he wrote this symphony when he couldn't hear anything. But he didn't want people to know that because he was making a living as a musician. And can you tell that the musician cannot hear anymore? He was not going to have any work and nobody was going to hire him to conduct a symphony or for a piano sonata. That's why he kept this as a secret, only for his most closer friends. But when it was the premiere of this symphony, and maybe you know the story, that people were drove crazy, clapping and with ovations, and he couldn't hear that. So a soprano, who was a good friend of him, had to come to him and turn him into the audience. And he realized about all the emotions that this symphony caused in people. And also, what makes this symphony peculiar, this is the first symphony in the history with a choir. Why? Before this, all the symphonies were only instrumental music. If you wanted choral music, it was a cantata, but most of times with a religious message. Beethoven, he wanted to finish his symphony with power, with a great message to humanity. Actually, he mentioned to people, he was always, when people were saying that he was crazy, he said, remember what I'm going to say. 200 years later, people is going to sing my melody. And he was right. So this is the text, originally in German, by Friedrich Schiller. But Beethoven did some changes in the text. So he has the original message of this poem is like happiness. But he sees happiness like a godness, that you have to welcome that godness. And also, he talks about love, different kinds of love. And he said that if you haven't felt that love, there is no reason to continue living because he said that's the most powerful thing, love. That's why is when the whole choir comes and and everything explodes. And also is one of the longest symphony, and for sure is the longest symphony by Beethoven. It's 1 hour and 5 minutes, which the tradition is like 40 minutes, not more than 40 minutes in Mozart symphonies and in Haydn symphonies. And one of the things I would like to mention specific about the music is at that time the most challenging symphony for musicians, for strings players, for bassoon, for flute, for the choir, for everybody, for everybody. So it's always, a technical challenge, but he didn't write this symphony thinking that it was going to be difficult. It's all the ideas that he had. And sometimes you have so many melodies at the same time. So now I am not going to play that symphony because it's for orchestra and I want you to come to the concert, but I'm going to play one of the most famous movements of one of his sonata, the pathetic sonata, the second movement. And for me, this is a melody like comes from the universe. You can tell all the emotions Beethoven was having in that single melody. So, just to start the conclusion of this, thank you for this invitation of this talk. I would like to mention about these concerts the other thing that you would do if you buy a ticket, because for me, music doesn't have to be elitist. And of course, to bring this such a wonderful orchestra, to bring solists who have been singing in the States, in Europe, is very expensive, trust me. But I don't want people that they cannot spend money in a ticket to miss the concert. That's why the tradition that we have is that we only sell the first part of the seats. The rest is free. At first, people were telling me, you are crazy, because if the concert is going to be free, who wants to pay a ticket? But I said, no, because many people, they want to support people who cannot afford a ticket. And when you buy a ticket for yourself, it's like if you also buy a ticket for a person who cannot afford that. And it's wonderful. Sometimes, 3 hours before the concert, we have hundreds of people waiting to get into the church because, of course, we have a limited free space. And they want to be the first ones. They want to make sure they will get a seat. So with this, you will have the opportunity for these people, and you can see kids, for many of them, this is the first time they will be attending these kind of concerts. And also, we have a benefit concert, which is a four hands piano concert on August the 12th. Buying the ticket for this concert, you also will have help supporting this project because what we get from tickets from Beethoven 9th Symphony only pays 60% of the expenses. We had more than 150 musicians. You can imagine how expensive it could be, and with the tickets, we only get 60%. And also, if this is something I would like to do for my forecast piano concert. If any of you wants to invite someone or want a ticket for yourself, you don't have to give the 400 pesos of the ticket. If you say, Mauro, I can only pay 100 or 200, that's fine. Everything helps. I prefer to have a full house paying 100 or 200 instead of having 5 seats paying 400. And in that way, you help us a lot to continue sponsoring this project. So I will share my email with you. And if any of you needs 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 tickets, you can please tell me. I need 3 or 4, but I can only pay 100 or 200. I will be more than happy to do it because every single amount helps us to continue with this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mauro. Do we have any questions for Mauro?
I have a question about Beethoven. He was not born deaf, correct?
No.
He was at age 12 or so?
Yeah, when he started, he was a teenager, but when he had serious problems, he was around 30.
So he had a memory of what a piano sounded like.
Absolutely.
Plus an enhanced ability to sense the vibrations as he composed. Still incredible. It's like having a superpower to be able to create his greatest work without even being able to hear it. Just amazing.
Absolutely. And as you said, in his memory, he had all the sounds. So when he was writing the music, he knew exactly the way it was going to sound. Absolutely.
Buenos días.
Buenos
Oye,
días.
no entendí bien. ¿Van a haber dos conciertos, uno el día 12 y otro el día 15?
El día 12 es un concierto de piano a 4 manos.
Ajá.
Y es con un pianista maestro del Conservatorio Nacional. Vamos a tocar un repertorio enfocado en música francesa y mexicana.
Ujú.
Y todo lo que se saque de este concierto nos ayuda a pagar los gastos del concierto del día 15, que es la novena sinfonía de Beethoven ya con toda la orquesta.
Ok, muchísimas
No,
gracias. Thank you.
gracias.
Mauro, the microphone is for people who are on the video. They can't hear unless you're
No.
by the microphone.
Thank you. That's good to know.
I just wanted to say thank you. Brought back a lot of memories for me. That was beautiful, and thank you for what you're doing and making an offer to us as you did. But these people all have money, so make them pay full price. Second thing is that my son started playing when he was just before he turned 4 years old, and he played until he was 12. And when I used to hear those songs come on, I would think, he's playing it again? But he was a genius, and he still is. My father said it skipped a generation. How long have you been playing?
I have been playing maybe for 36 years, maybe. Yeah. I was like 6 or 7. Oh, thank you.
Maestro, esto no es una pregunta, nada más una aclaración para los aquí presentes, que todos estos eventos son dentro del marco del FASMA, el
Correcto.
Festival de las Artes de San Miguel, que va a durar todo este mes y el mes que viene, y que esperemos que todos estén por ahí.
Exactamente, esperemos que nos apoyen en todos los eventos del FASMA.
Mauro, thank you. And I have to tell you, you have inspired me to go back to my piano.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, here.
Thank you, Mauro. What a
Thank you.
nice presentation. My question is, so what will be your top 3 pieces from the whole universe?
You know, that's a very good question, but I think all depends the way I feel. Sometimes, for some reason, I like very sad music and very tragic music. But sometimes, I just change my mind and I want, some different kind. And sometimes, I am more like lazy and I don't want to concentrate in the music. So I want something more, you know, easy to hear. But sometimes I want to hear like a Bach fugue and I want to be like, wow. So, yeah, I think all depends the way I feel. Thank you.
Blame it on the bossa nova.
It will be 2 concerts. Remember, on August 12th in Templo de la Tercera Orden at 7 p.m. Tickets will be from 400 and 300 pesos, right, Mauro?
Right.
And the other one will be on Saturday, 15 August, 7:30 on Templo de San Francisco. So for how much will be those tickets?
1,000 pesos and all of them, todos se venden en la página del FASMA.
So 1,000 pesos for the Saturday 15, and you can purchase the tickets on the FASMA website, and Mauro brings some tickets if you want to buy it. So Mauro, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Robin, for bringing Mauro here, and we want to give you as our appreciation a mug from Rotary, the Club of San Miguel de Allende-Midday, for your morning coffee and when you are practicing your piano pieces.